Hello, this is the voice of admin at the Clan with Clancast number 2. Michelle is here with us answering your questions. The first one comes from Lone Wolf Out Hunting. Very simple question. Michelle, where is your favourite place in the world and why?
I'm hopeless at favourites. I think my general favourite place is any large forest because I love being in a forest. Like Torak, I feel very relaxed in the forest. And after that, somewhere in the Arctic, I think. I do love the stretches of snow up there and the snowbound trees and the feeling of ice and space. So, yeah, can't be very specific there.
But somewhere up there, somewhere up north.
Yeah.
Ryan asks, Hiya, I have read all the Chronicles of Ancient Darkness so far, and I was wondering if Torak ever finds his wolf mother and siblings that his father left with him. What happened to them? Will they ever be reunited?
I don't think anyone's ever asked that question, actually. That's a good one. We're talking about, as I understand it, the wolf mother and siblings that Torak was placed with as a baby. Well, sadly, I can answer that question. No, he won't, because they're dead. Because wolves don't live as long as people, I'm afraid. So, the mother in particular would have, well, if she was lucky, she'd have lived about 12 years. That would have been good going. She's quite a special wolf, so she'd live a little bit longer. But by then, no, he doesn't, I'm afraid.
Right, rather a sad answer, that. The first tree says, Hi, Ms. Paver. I think the first tree could call you Michelle, actually.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, just to you, just for you.
Please do.
I'm the first tree, and I'm from South Africa. I know that's a few thousand miles away from where you live, but I still love your books. I love the way you created Torak's world, and I must say that I would never have thought of it this way. Here are my questions. There were 7 Soul Eaters. We know that Far, Tenris, Nef, Sheshru, and Thiadzi are definitely dead. Eostra is alive, and we don't know about the unknown one, only that Finkedin tells us she perished in the Great Fire. One of the Soul Eaters is fascinated by demons, and one could summon the dead. Is Eostra the one who is the demon fascinate, or is it the one who apparently perished in the Great Fire?
Neither, actually. The one who perished in the Great Fire, I'm not going to say anything about. You'll find out more about that in Ghost Hunter. You'll also find out more about what Eostra does in Ghost Hunter, but maybe the title can give you a clue as to what her particular capabilities are.
The first tree also says, a friend of mine, Runu, wants to know if you're married. Are you?
Nope, never been married, not divorced, nothing.
Right, fair enough. Except children, can any other animal be made into a Tokoroth?
You have the mind of a mage. That's very inspiring. Possibly is the answer. Again, wait until Ghost Hunter. But interesting question.
That's an interesting answer, actually, because it kind of suggests things. Here in South Africa, we have a small creature that's mythical, but's called a Tokolosh. Did you get the name of Tokoroth from Tokolosh? Now, I know you've actually covered that in the previous Clancast, but I think it was so scary. Let's just mention it again.
Yeah, I did get the name Tokoroth from Tokolosh. Part of my family comes from South Africa and Central Africa. My father was South African, so I grew up with an atmosphere of African myths. The Tokolosh, however, was not entirely mythical. As I mentioned before, in some parts of Africa, children would be stolen, this is going back a bit, and then brought up in an atmosphere of great evil and trained to do evil things. And sometimes their limbs were twisted, so they were sort of crippled and things. It's pretty horrible. And I think that's what gives it its power. You'll find that quite a lot of the ideas in the Chronicles have some seed in reality, and that's what makes them quite believable.
I see your editor and publisher is Fiona Kennedy. Was her name the inspiration for the name Finkedin?
I did laugh when I read this question, actually. It certainly wasn't consciously. No, I sat there and I was really pleased with the name Finkedin. I remember distinctly being so pleased when I came up with it because it's so strong and I really like him and it really fits him. Who knows what the subconscious mind does? I don't think so, though, because Fiona is a very elegant blonde lady, very feminine. And, Finkedin is all man, so I don't think so, but nice idea.
Maybe they should get together. Eagle Owl Clan is strangely not on the maps in the back of the Chronicles of Ancient Darkness. Why is that so?
Yeah, well spotted. The Eagle Owl Clan is now extinct, or it's extinct in the time when Torak is in the forest. So that's why it's not on the map. You'll hear a tiny bit more about that in Ghost Hunter. You may have noticed that actually the Oak clan isn't on the map, because that's also extinct. Of course, the Azzy was Oak clan, but the rest of them had died out.
Nickette says, hello, Miss Paver. My question is, if you ever wrote an autobiography, what would it focus on, and what would it be called?
Goodness, I'm never going to write an autobiography. I'm quite a private person. You may not think so, since I'm rabbiting on here. But no, the thought of describing my life just fills me with horror. So it would probably focus on something not at all to do with me if I was forced to write an autobiography.
Okay. Wolfstrike wants to know, if you were about 14, do you think that you would read COAD?
I hope so, yeah. I think I probably would have done. I mean, I wrote these books because, for me, when I was a child, when I call a child, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, I know that's quite a big age range, but that's because there are things in there for lots of different ages. So, yeah, this is the kind of book that I would have wanted to have read.
Okay. And Wolfstrike also wants to know, if you could meet one character from COAD, which one would it be?
Well, apart from Wolf, which, it's strange to be asked this question because I don't feel as if I haven't met them. They've been with me for the last 6 years. When I go on a research trip, they're with me. I could almost see them in the forest. But I understand the question. You mean if I could really, really, really meet somebody. And excluding Wolf, because he's an animal, I think it would be Finkedin, actually. I think he's amazing. And he's very wise, and I'd probably learn something from him.
And do you think you would be able to live on the same diet that Torak is on?
Yeah, I definitely think I could. I am a meat eater, so I would have no problem at all. And sometimes when I'm up and doing the research, you end up eating nothing but meat, because that's all there is. There isn't much greenery up in the Arctic. So I don't think I'd have a problem about that. Other aspects of living in the Stone Age, I would have a problem with. I'm quite short-sighted, so no contact lenses would be a problem.
Wolf Torak Forest Wren, that's all one word, Wolf Torak Forest Wren, wants to know, what's your favourite part of writing the books and researching them?
Well, researching them is my favourite part of all, because it's a great deal easier than writing. So going off into the forest, say, or up to the Arctic with Torak and Wren and Wolf with me is just fantastic, and thinking, this is where the climax to Ghost Hunter can take place, and this is where, something else happens. I think that's the best bit. Apart from that, when I'm actually writing, it's the rewriting stage. It's very hard work, because by then I haven't got that much time, so I've got to write sort of 8 hours a day, and it's usually over Christmas, so forget Christmas. But by then, the stories come together, I'm really in it, and I'm just able to do the fun things like cutting out the boring bits and making it more exciting.
How much of the story is fact-based, and how much is fantasy?
That's a very difficult one to answer, because everything in these books could have happened. I mean, that's the guiding principle when I've written them. All of this could actually have happened 6,000 years ago, so there's nothing that's physically impossible. Now, I don't know what happened 6,000 years ago, so in another sense, it's all made up, because I don't know if there were people like that who did that sort of thing. But I have studied recent hunter-gatherers, people like the Inuit, American Indians, Aborigines, and so I know that there are people who spirit walk, they're called shamans. I know the kind of beliefs they have, so that's why I say that it could all have happened.
Flameboy is also writing, and Flameboy wants to know, how much research did you put into your books? I'm trying to write a novel, and I love the way you know so much about what you're writing. Well,
thank you for that, Flameboy. I do quite a lot of research, because I like to have experienced as much as I can what Torak's experienced. So, for example, in Spirit Walker, when he swam with the killer whales, I went up and swam with the killer whales, because then you can get the little details that you can't read in books. I didn't have to do something as wild as that. I could go and meet the wolves in Berkshire, but I could still then smell what a wolf smells like and get all those little details. So I think some research helps. Now, I don't want to discourage you, though, because if, research can mean something as simple as going for a walk in a park on a rainy day. But trying to experience what your characters are going to experience, providing it's safe, can really help, because it can give you ideas that you won't get when you're just sitting at your desk.
What does a wolf actually smell like?
Really nice, actually. It's not doggy. You know, I'm not doggist here, but you know, some dogs can smell rather sort of musty and dog-like. Yeah. A wolf doesn't smell like a dog. It's quite a sort of sweet smell. Wow. I call it a sort of sweet grass smell, I think, in Wolf Brother. But yeah, very, very nice.
Nice. A question from WWW says, Dear Michelle, I was thinking you should write a book about before Torak was born and what happened, and or write about Ren before she met Torak. Just an idea.
Thank you. That's a good idea. I have to say at the moment, I know there's been a rumour going around that I might write a prequel or something like that. At the moment, it really doesn't appeal. You know, stories are funny things. They're mysterious. This is Torak's story, the story of Torak and Wolf and Ren. And to go back, I just don't think there's enough in it for a book.
Yeah. Young Feather has got a similar sort of question. Says, do you think you will still write after you're finished, even if it's not published?
Oh, I'll definitely write. I hope, you know, I'll write until I drop sort of thing, because I'm not particularly happy. I mean, I'm writing at the moment. I'm writing something completely different, but I'm still writing because after about a week off, I just thought, I'm bored. I want to write. What it'll be, I don't think I want to go into yet. I've got a couple of ideas that have been with me for the last year or so, and I just want to keep them to myself for the moment.
Yeah. XX She-Wolf XX has actually lots of questions. And I've picked out as many as we can squeeze in here. How did you come up with the name Torak?
Torak was an interesting one. I wanted a strong-sounding name. I looked at sounds from different European languages, Old Norse, that's what the Vikings used to talk, and I basically just made it up, or I thought I had. And then I went to Greenland to do some research, and I showed Wolf Brother to my Inuit guide, and she said, oh, Torak, that means something in our language. She said it means perfect,
wow.
Which I thought was really spooky. Yeah. Well, I thought it was spooky, but she didn't. She just said, well, you were probably an Inuit in a previous life. Of course, Torak isn't perfect, but, it's still quite nice.
Yeah. Now, there's a simple question here, again, from XX She-Wolf XX, that everyone wants to know, and I think we know how you're going to answer this, but we have to ask in any case, will there be a sad ending in Ghost Hunter, and will anyone die?
I'm definitely not going to say anything about the ending to Ghost Hunter, except that I hope you find it dramatically satisfying, which could mean anything in terms of whether it'll make you cry or not. You also asked the question, will there be a death in Ghost Hunter? Yes.
Woo. It's got us on the edge of our seats. What qualifications, degrees did you take to get where you are now?
Well, you don't need any sort of degree or qualification to be a writer. The qualifications I have are completely irrelevant, really, to them. I've got a degree in biochemistry, and I'm a qualified lawyer. So none of that. You don't need any of that. What you need to do, the qualification you need, is to read lots and lots and lots.
The Wolverine says, Hi Michelle, COAD is really popular around the world, seeing as I come from Australia. And now I'd like to ask you a few questions. In the books, it's mentioned that after one dies, one must not speak their name for 5 summers. In the Australian Aboriginal culture, such belief also exists. Did that inspire you, or did you just make it up?
Well, I think I was inspired more by the Inuit, who also have that belief. I don't think I knew about the Aborigines until a bit later, when I went to Australia on a book tour and did some research while I was there. But it is fascinating that many, many hunter-gatherers do have that belief, and it's very strongly linked with the idea that you don't want to call back the soul or the ghost, because then you might have problems. The Aboriginal culture I find fascinating, and in fact, just as an aside, I wanted to get a lot more in using some of their skills and their religion, but it wasn't always possible because that's a desert culture. Many of them, not all of them. But yeah, it's fascinating that they also have that belief. Yeah.
At the back of the books, it says that you got inspired for the books when you met a bear in a Californian valley. What was it like?
It was terrifying. It was 2 small cubs. I was walking on my own and saw these gorgeous little fluffy bear cubs, and the next moment there was the mother bear, great big black bear. And just by chance, I was in a sort of a gully with a stream and quite close to the cubs, and they were young cubs, and so she got very agitated and came towards me to check me out. And really, I just had to stay very still and talk to her and calm her down. In fact, I sang her a little song just to calm her down. So, I mean, eventually I got away, of course. I just walked very, very slowly, but it was terrifying, because if I'd done the wrong thing, all she needed to do was just reach over and swipe me once with her paw, and she'd break my neck.
Jeez, and we would never have had the series.
You would never have had the series.
Wow. Sobering thought. Miss Majus Blackheart says, "Hi, Michelle. I just wanted to know if you have any tips for writing, as I've just started on a story of my own, and I'm a bit stuck."
Well, congratulations. Don't worry, we all get stuck. I do sometimes. First tip, I think, the obvious one is read a lot, because that you will learn things even if you don't think you're learning it just from reading. The other thing is do a little bit of planning, maybe. Just try to think about what your main character wants, and what kind of obstacles might be put in their way of getting them. That might give you a little bit of plan. Where do you want the story to end up? Apart from that, rewriting is really, really useful. You can cut out people, you can add dragons, you can do what you like. So don't be worried if your first draft is not that brilliant, because nobody's first draft is. Mine certainly isn't.
And keep writing.
Keep writing, and try not to make it a chore. I mean, I know I do 6 hours a day and everything, but I'm a professional writer, so just enjoy it. But in terms of plot, I think try to get to know your main character or characters, and then try to work out what do they want.
Dusty J says, "Everyone seems a little sad that the telling of Torak's story is going to cease soon, but the real shame to me is that there is only one story in the first place. Are you going to make more books based in the same world? The Wolf Brother series is good, but they're books with only so many characters and so much plot. It's only so often that you find someone who has gone so deeply into a so ancient and different world and bring it to life in the way you have. Surely the world you've created in the Wolf Brother series has many more characters and plots within it, which could appeal to just about every audience and style."
Well, thank you for that. That made me feel very nostalgic listening to that. Yeah, it's a strange one. In some ways, I agree with you. But the thing is that stories are mysterious, and to me, that world is very much associated with Torak and Ren and Wolf. So at the moment, I say, things might change in 5 years' time. I can't imagine writing a story set in their world without them. And so I think maybe I'm going to need a break. Maybe not forever, but I'm going to need a break and write something different. And the character I'm thinking of at the moment certainly is in a different world. Although I don't think I'm going to be writing anything very modern. Let's put it that way. I think I'm going to be staying in an ancient world. I think that's all I can say at the moment.
Midnight Gold says, "How did you, after all your years waiting to become a best-selling author, pursue this career? Do you ever wonder how well your work might do? You shouldn't worry, though. I've always wanted advice from an author like you, or pretty much you."
Thank you for that. Well, I wasn't waiting to become a best-selling author. That's the first thing. I was trying to be a writer, trying to write, rather. I just was keen on writing stories, so I didn't really focus on the best-selling bit, and I think it's a good thing not to. That was just something I wanted to do. It's a bit difficult to explain, but I just wasn't that happy when I wasn't writing. And so I was writing when I was a lawyer for 13 years, in the evenings and at weekends and things like that. And I do rather think sometimes, gosh, it's weird how things turn out. I never expected to be writing Chronicles of Ancient Darkness. It was a bit of an accident, really. And it changed my life, but in a good way. So writing is pretty mysterious. You don't really know where these stories come from.
Midnight Gold also asks, "Now, it's about the wolves. You make everything so believable when Torak is speaking in the wolf tongue to Wolf. How do you do this? Part of me wonders if you are part wolf. But we all know that would be a little out there."
It is out there. What I can say is when I am writing wolf sections, and those are my favourite sections, I actually find them the easiest, I become wolf. In a sense, you do that with any character. That's what's so fun about the Soul Eaters. I become Thiazi, I become Aostra. With Wolf, I become Wolf. And so quite often, I'm sitting at the computer and I'll cross my paws at the keyboard and I'll give a little howl or something. I'm actually in his character. And that's how I start to notice things, and that's how I get ideas for how he terms certain things, like, the bright beast that bites hot. I didn't know he was going to do that in Wolf Brother, but when I was a wolf cub, I did.
Dolphin Clan Girl says, "Hi, I've so many questions to ask. I don't even know where to start. Well, I guess I should start with this. When is the 5th book coming out in the US? I've been waiting for months." Then she also wants to know, when is the final book coming out in the US? I really want to know what happens, and I might have to reread the books so I can remember what happened if it isn't soon. Probably will be anyway, though.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. The US, I don't have a definite publication date. I think it's sometime in the summer for Oathbreaker. And if you're desperate to know more details, the best thing to do is to get in touch with HarperCollins, and they'll, I'm sure, be able to tell you.
Or you could just look at Amazon.com, which is the US Amazon, and Amazon.ca, of course, is the Canadian one, and they will have the publication dates there too.
Oh, thank you. That's a really good idea. Yeah, much better. In terms of Ghost Hunter, well, it's coming out in the UK, and that will be the first place it'll come out in. We haven't got a definite date, but it's sort of end of August, beginning of September, something like that, this year, 2009. So I'm afraid in the US it'll be quite a long wait. It'll be something like the summer next year. So you could always try to get one on Amazon, I think, a UK one. What I would say to anybody overseas about Ghost Hunter is, and there'll be warnings, as the time approaches for Ghost Hunter itself. Be warned that there will be, spoilers on the website.
Yeah.
I'm sure. So I don't want you to spoil your enjoyment of Ghost Hunter too much by finding out the ending. But I'm sure you know all that much better than I do.
Yeah, definitely. Fuzzy She-Wolf says, "Hey Michelle, how did you become inspired to be a writer? And who helped you become a writer? And how exactly did it help you become a brilliant writer?"
Well, thank you for that. How did I become inspired to be a writer? I can't remember a time when I didn't want to write. I mean, I started writing stories when I was about 5. I just liked being in the world of stories and being able to make things happen. And that never really changed. I used to write plays at school and force my friends to play in them and things like that. What was the next question? Sorry, missed that.
Well, it's all about you being brilliant. How did you manage to become such a brilliant writer?
How did I manage to become a writer? Well, the managing to become a writer was just keeping on writing, really, and sending off stories and getting them rejected by publishers and picking myself up off the floor and then trying again. You just keep going. Thank you for calling me brilliant. I mean, that was just reading lots. I can't stress that enough. Read lots of books, lots of stories and things. And then you just keep trying and keep rewriting.
And finally, a couple of questions from Torak the Clanless. Hello. Will there ever be a prequel and or sequel series when you're done with Ghost Hunter? If Torak is a spirit walker, then how come he never spirit walked in Wolf Brother? And would Torak be able to spirit walk in a human?
You'll probably have to remind me of those last two questions.
Okay.
So the first question, which I've actually already forgotten, what was that?
Prequel or series sequel?
Prequel or series sequel. At the moment, I have no plans for a prequel or a sequel. This is Torak's story, and his story is bound up with his world, and that's how it's going to end. Things might change in a few years.
Okay, now Torak the Clanless also asked about the book coming out in Canada.
Sorry, there was a question about spirit walking.
Yeah, we've just briefly mentioned Canada. The best thing really is to go to Amazon.ca to find out the release date there. But finally, Torak the Clanless wanted to know, if Torak is a spirit walker, then how come he never spirit walked in Wolf Brother? And would Torak be able to spirit walk in a human?
Well, would Torak be able to spirit walk in a human? Well, technically, yeah. What's to stop him? I'm not going to say any more about that. Why didn't he spirit walk in Wolf Brother? Because he didn't know he was a spirit walker. He doesn't know he's a spirit walker until Tenris tells him in Spirit Walker. However, if you go back to Wolf Brother, there's a bit when he falls over the waterfall, and he's down in the water, and the hidden people of the river are with him, and they call to him the boy with the drifting souls. So he's down there, and his souls are beginning to come loose, although he doesn't know it.
Well, thank you so much, Michelle. Another great Clancast there. Lots more questions to be answered still. If you haven't had your question answered, then all I can say is listen to Clancast number 3 coming to you soon.